drop where you're sitting or what accelerator you are coming from in the chat. My name is Jessica, and I lead customer experience here at Headway Idea Labs. At Headway, we support accelerators, incubators, and innovation hubs with creating investor-ready founders with custom programs while helping them manage the daily operations of running a cohort using our all-in-one platform. Today's webinar is assessing founder market fit. We chose this as this month's topic because over the years, we've supported companies with their cohorts and learned that the most successful ones look beyond just the idea and have specific qualifications they seek for in applicants. So we wanted to share that with you. And with that said, let me also introduce you to our main speaker, Wesley Okeke. All right, Wes is the founder of Headway Idea Labs and also the CEO of CubeIO Innovation Hub, a life sciences accelerator and wet lab facility supporting medtech and healthcare founders. With more than 30 years of global experience in business development, product commercialization, and market expansion across the world, Wesley has guided technology-driven companies, specifically in regulated sectors like healthcare and life sciences. Through Headway, he created a proven investor readiness and seed conversion framework that has supported over 500 startups. About 80% of the founders who have completed our program go on to raise capital, often securing early institutional investments from $150K to over $1 million. He also serves on the Texas Medical Center Steering Committee and advises the TMC Biodesign Accelerator on commercialization strategy and capital readiness. At its core, Wesley's work focuses on equipping founders to become strategic, disciplined leaders who execute effectively, plan milestones, and scale sustainably. So please join me in welcoming Wes.
Thank you for that, Jessica, and welcome everyone. Today's webinar, I promise to do my best to be clear, simple, and great on time. Just so everyone knows, my background actually is in technology, so primarily focused on technology, then moved into the life science space. I'm an engineer on the electrical side, but went into BD, marketing and sales, many years ago, as Jessica alluded to. And I did that out of Boston and also Silicon Valley, then covered pretty much the Americas, and then was in Europe and Asia as well. And in regards to product development, marketing initiatives, and just global penetration. So my job primarily was launching new products while I was in corporate, and then launched Headway about 13 years ago. One of the longstanding, originally incubator accelerators in Houston, when a lot of communities jumped into the innovation space of entrepreneurship and accelerators and incubators and innovation hubs. So I have worked with numerous groups on acceleration or incubation, have spoken at the majority of the universities and colleges here in Houston, entrepreneurship, and also technical development of products. So what I've seen over the years, and this is some just quick data facts, they're from, as you can see at the bottom, they weren't just ChatGPT'd, but one of my peers here at Headway, Tomas, put this together. But the facts are the things that are driving Headway forward, right? The facts of founder failures. This is what drives us. And personally, it drives me because I know that founders spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money trying to build or launch their vision and their product, and a huge percentage. We know that there's a huge percentage, 80+ startups fail. But here's just some data just to refresh our minds. Lack of market need, team dissolution, founder burnout, pivot paralysis. And then obviously there are necessary fixes and preventions for these kind of things. But founder failures is huge. And in the life science space, it's even much higher. And I know you're probably thinking how much higher it can get than 80%, but yeah, it is in the high 90s, I would say. And again, we will send you this deck for those that are on here, and I think we'll be able to also have this video on YouTube eventually. But anyway, things like co-founder agreements and mental resilience and finding founders that are coachable are very, very key. But we see this problem take fantastic ideas and destroy them, so to speak. And so it's Headway's mission to help prevent founder failure. And so we pivoted about 3 years ago to work directly with accelerators. And, accelerators also face a problem. And I'll show some statistics on that as well. But one of the key things here that I just want to review is why startup selection is hard. But one of the key problems that accelerators face is startups they bring in, right? And that's a challenge because right now I'm going through our own list of about 40 plus applicants. We've gone through probably 50 because we've brought in more. QBio is launching a medtech accelerator, our second one. The first one was our first pilot one with QBio in the health space, which went really well. I think Tomas wanted to make sure I gave accurate numbers. So it's about 80, I think 75% of the startups, one got funded within 2 months, the other two are already partnered with investors. The third one didn't, the fifth one didn't, just because they came in late into the program. But they're in the process of getting to that point. Anyway, accelerators review hundreds of applications. Some do for each cohort. And the common challenges there you see are too many idea stage startups, founders without market insight, weak investor readiness, and selection often based on gut instinct. And so right now I have a few other people that are with me. This next cohort for QBio is going to be about 12 to 13 applicants. But these challenges I'm even facing myself. We look at the decks, we get a review of their product, and everything's very well positioned and their business model. And then we bring them in, we sit down and have an interview, and we realize, oh, wow, we were off base in our judgment. And so these are a lot of the challenges that, accelerators will run into if they don't do their due diligence. And then you get a cohort filled with unprepared startups. Accelerators succeed when they select founders, not just ideas. And in the beginning years of me launching Headway, I was excited of every idea, and I loved every founder that came into our program. But research shows accelerator success depends heavily on selective evaluation processes and strong startup screening frameworks. Our first screening process last year was a lot better. This year, and we're not done yet because we haven't launched and we haven't decided on the startups, but this year seems to be a huge task because I'm bringing far more applicants in and I'm going through this whole process. And my temptation is, these sound good, they look good, just bring them in until we do a little bit deeper dive and we find out, no, this is probably not a good fit. And I'll only say that to preface that I don't look at startups as not worthy of our time. I never do. I think based on for the benefit of our success and the benefit of the startup success and the benefit of these other startups that are going to be in the program for their success, we need to make sure that we have very high standards so that everyone in the platform has a great opportunity to succeed. And so what Headway does, we've done this for this one as well. We have a pre-accelerator program, which we started several months ago. And the great thing, and that's an online self-paced for the startups. We've had probably 2 to 3 of those from the pre-accelerator program be able to sign up for the accelerator. So it was really good because they came in far more prepared, and it gave us a few extra applicants into our accelerator program. So our goal and our plan is to run this pre-accelerator program all year round. So next year, when we start the next accelerator program, we'll have a much better fit of startups that are ready to come in. A missing metric, founder market fit, and this is one of the terms that we're using now. Before product market fit, there's founder market fit, and what I mean by that is the founder has deep alignment with the market problem they are solving. Startups with strong founder market fit learn faster and build more credible solutions. And this is important. If your founders, or at least one of them, has deep alignment with the market problem, they understand the market problem. And you will get founders that do, but then sometimes they don't have enough experience in that industry. They're going to run into a lot of challenges. But founder market fit is very important. So we're looking, right, as we are assessing the different applicants now for the QBio Accelerator, we're looking at how aligned they are to the market problem. And if you've run into this, I'm sure you can relate. They're focusing on the product and they're not focusing on the market. So a lot of our meetings, we have to divert them to, hey, tell us more about the people, the pain points you're solving, why they'll need it, so on and so forth, opposed to the product. And it's so easy because we can also get enamored with this new idea, and we bring them in and we realize they haven't done the due diligence, the early due diligence, to ensure there's even a problem, a significant problem where their business and their product would be adopted. Now, why ideas can be a poor filter. And I know, again, as I mentioned in my earlier years as an incubator accelerator, this was me. Every idea was excellent and it was a bad filter. Ideas are cheap, execution is rare, and that's true. Even with those that have developed products that are phenomenal, and if you ever, they can run into problems executing. And if you ever read The Entrepreneur's Myth, that will give you some insight on why that takes place. But anyway, many accelerators ask, is the idea innovative? And that's true. But the better question, is this the right founder for this market? And that's very, very, very important. Key signals accelerators should assess: industry insight. The founders have industry insight to the ups and downs of that particular market in that particular industry, who the competitors are, why they have leverage against what the competitors are already doing, so on and so forth. And we brought in several applicants that phenomenal ideas, and I thought for sure they were going to be on our accelerator cohort, and then doing a little bit more of deeper discussion, because I just asked them a few questions and realized, oh, this is not good. And they got to do some more pivoting. I don't think our accelerator program is going to be able to help them with the amount of pivoting and reorganization of their business model that they need. Customer access, right? Are they accessible? Do they have access to the customers? Team capabilities. A lot of the ones that we're bringing in now, they're all PhDs. And I always ask them, hey, anyone else on your team that is in the business side? And so far, almost none of them have anyone on the business side. So this is going to be product intensive and technical intensive. And then with that, they tend to miss the business side, which is very, very critical for not only their success, but also for investor acceptance and investor interest. And even, launching is going to be very, very important. And then evidence of validation. Do they have any evidence that, especially if they come in at a proof of concept, we typically don't bring them in if it's just an idea. There has to be some validation there, not only on the product, but also that this product will solve a pain point. And as I always tell everyone and every founder, investors ultimately bet on teams more than ideas. And I give this little analogy here. A team, B business model, C product, there's a good potential possibility of success. A product, A business model, C plus team. And it may not mean they're not skilled, it just may mean they're not the right team to execute and launch this product. But if you have an A plus product, an A plus business model, but a C plus team in regards to what is needed, again, I'm not addressing anything them lacking, capabilities of certain sorts. There's a high potential of failure because the product doesn't, you hear this term, the product will sell itself. And that does happen, but in very rare occasions. And that's why investors ultimately bet on teams. And I'm sure if you've done this long enough, you know that's extremely important. So the three-stage founder evaluation framework, be strategic in your intent. You have to be very strategic. And that's being able also to say, no, you're not ready yet. Maybe try a pre-accelerator program and then come back at a later date. Evidence-based evaluation. Yes, data is very, very important, especially when it has to, if you're in the life sciences, and I've done life sciences startups as well as tech startups. Evaluation or evidence, data evidence is extremely, extremely important. Regardless of how well this device or this software is going to work, you need to have some data backing it. And then being accelerator ready. So again, not trying to push this point, but pre-acceleration is very, very helpful if you have a program for that, because it helps them be accelerator ready and on several different fronts. I think mindset, being able to jump in a program that helps them think through everything they're doing, understanding that they need to now balance their time. And this is also a learning process. And it's also, as they're learning, they're balancing time with work and other situations. And also they're pivoting and changing a lot of their strategic approach to what they're doing. And that's really good if they're mentally prepared when they come in to an accelerator of what they're going to face. But this framework helps accelerators identify founders ready to build real companies. And that's very, very critical. Some other statistics here, again, from reputable resources. Accelerator-driven failures. And thank you again, Tomas, for providing this generic mentorship. 99% of accelerators fail to provide experienced top-tier mentors. And the prevention or the fix is startups should choose vertical specific programs, ag tech, fintech, medtech over generalists. And most accelerators I've seen tend to do that, but I think even within the industry that you're in, you may need to go down several levels in regards to the uniqueness of the startups that are going to be working together. Right now, we're in our decision making on the types of startups we're bringing into the next cohort for QBio, which we launch next month. We have a wide variety of medtech startups, but we're also watching how far in regards to the range of uniqueness, so that there's going to be a little bit more cohesiveness. And when the mentors come in to speak, we want to make sure they are able to address multiple people that are going to be in the cohort. Misaligned goals. Corporate accelerators have a 60% failure rate within 2 years due to conflicting KPIs. This I see all the time, and unfortunately, I don't have time to dig into this. Based on the accelerator's KPIs, it tends not to always align with the goals of what the facilitators are trying to address in regards to success. Equity over dilution. Programs taking 7 to 10% for very little cash can kill future investability. Yeah, that is a big thing for investors when they are looking to invest and they find out that an accelerator has a chunk of equity. And I know 7 to 10% doesn't sound much, but it is in the early stages. It is significant, or can be. Standard terms using industry standard safes or test to invest models where equities earned later is very important. The demo trap. This is probably my biggest pet peeve when I see accelerators run these. Programs often focus on a slick pitch rather than a sustainable business model. And operational focus should be shift curriculum from pitching to unit economics and go to market. And I'm going to another pitch competition, but it's good. It's a much more, they spend a lot of time pitching. We give them 20 minutes and there's a lot of questions and answers. And it's MedTech Incubator, sorry. It's a global incubator, the largest one in the world. Been part of them for 5 years. But each time their go-to-market strategy, and they do a fantastic job. I won't say they don't. They do an excellent job. Yeah. But the go-to-market strategy is always missing in these startups, and a few other things. Go-to-market exit strategy. These are key things that investors are looking for. And a lot of accelerators, I know here in Texas, will focus on the demo day, and the pitch decks are incredible. They're beautiful. They're well laid out. Unfortunately, I know the back end to every pitch, especially if I was part of that accelerator program, and they are nowhere close to what their pitch deck is saying. And the challenge with that is the first conversation they have with the investor, and the investor asks 2 to 3 questions. The investor automatically knows they're nowhere close to what their deck says, and they take that as fluff, and it's a major turnoff to the investors. And so the demo day trap is huge, and I think it also connects with a lot of accelerator KPIs, and they probably need to be readjusted. And so I always suggest to accelerators, if you can do more than 3 months, to do so. And again, that may not be possible, but it helps. Anyway, stage 1, strategic intent, pre-qualification questionnaire. Before interviews, founders must demonstrate mission clarity. Very, very important, because that drives everything going forward on what their mission is. Mission statements can change, but internal missions are typically very solid. And making sure that's clear with them. Personal connection to the problem, very important. At least one person needs to have that. And if not, it becomes this great idea and this fantastic product. And without the personal connection, a lot of times they lose focus, and it's all about what they're building. Industry understanding. Understanding the industry obviously is very, very important, as it will dictate how they build their adoption, how they're going to compete, so on and so forth. And then market awareness, understanding market trends is very important, how big the market is, so on and so forth. And so some key questions that can help is, why are you uniquely qualified to solve this problem? That's a really good question to ask in the beginning, because it's going to tell you several things about them that relate to the questionnaire. What personal experience led you to this market? And who specifically is your target customer? And when I ask startups this question, especially if I do it in person, you can see their face change, and they're realigning their thoughts. And it's a beneficial exercise for them, whether they come in or not, because they start realigning their thoughts, and they start asking themselves internal questions based on what they're building, based on what they're focused on. And it helps them consider, wow, have I really clarified a lot of these questions that you see under the questionnaire? And the purpose behind this is weed out weaker applicants, right? If they're having a hard time answering this, then it weeds them out, and it strengthens ready founders. So I had a conversation with a group yesterday. Excellent. I know they can execute, but they didn't know how to answer these questions. I was generous. I says, okay, I'm going to give you 5 days. Come back to me Monday answering these questions. And it was good. They appreciated it, because they realized they need to make some early on pivots before they even get into the accelerator program. And so having a strategic intention is very, very key. It helps you and it helps them, and it helps the success of everyone. And it helps the success of the mentors coming in and they know, okay, this cohort is already thinking ahead. Stage 2, evidence-based decision-making. Accelerators must move from instinct to evidence. And this is very important. And this, again, is probably the term used, it can be my Achilles heel. My instinct is I love everyone, right? And I love your idea. You seem to be a fantastic person. Evaluation should include founder and indicators, domain expertise. I already mentioned that. Customer discovery interviews. So we brought in several that have not spoken to a potential customer at all. And that's very, very key because that will drive a lot of decisions they are making. And you want them to come in early. You want them to come into your accelerator already having done this, right? Early adopter engagement. And this can be difficult because not many people know about the early adopter and the value of an early adopter to a startup. And in Headway, we focus heavily on that. Spent many, many years focused on the psychology behind early adopters, how to reach early adopters, what do the profiles look like, so on and so forth. And so we have a whole session dedicated to that with a lot of worksheets. And then the industry network, have they gotten access to the industry network? Very, very important. And so again, a lot of this you can do earlier on. If I would say before your accelerator starts is months out, is have them either do a questionnaire or go and do some of these exercises. And then program indicators. So those are founder indicators that will tell you great. And then your own program indicators. So these is, okay, does my program show these indicators? Mentor validation. I do get people asking me, hey, Wes, can you help us find mentors for their accelerator? And I go, well, I could, but it depends on what you need and what your goals are and what type of startups you have. From my perspective, because I have been a mentor countless times, I don't want to be a mentor coming from one perspective, right? So a lot of mentors will have industry experience, but then they will, sometimes they're used to blanket multiple industries, multiple problems. And so they come in, they speak, and it may be very helpful for 3 of your startups, but 2, it's detrimental. And because they take that advice and it's not the best advice for them based on their strategic roadmap. Industry expert feedback, really getting a lot of feedback from the industry experts into the program you are developing. So I try to find the industry experts to provide guidance. And so most of the mentors I bring in, I have them speak on something specific. I provide them guidelines because Headway has worksheets for every step of the way. We have worksheets, and I say, hey, here's the worksheet. Here's the boundaries you need to stay within when you speak, and you stay within those boundaries. You can talk about anything else, talk about your experience, so on and so forth. Because we want to build these startups right, and we don't want them. We want them to get the least amount of information that's going to misdirect them. And then, market feasibility, very, very important. This is a program indicator, again, for the accelerators. The best programs combine mentor insight and structured scoring. So think about that. And that's important as they're going along, scoring how well your startups are doing based on the insights from the mentors, but then also how well they're learning going through the program. And then stage 3, accelerator ready. Accelerators often admit startups that are not accelerator ready. And when I use the term admit, it means bring on. Sorry, probably should have used a different term. So I'll say it this way. Accelerators often bring on board startups that are not accelerator ready. And I think everything I've said kind of led up to this anyway. Founders should arrive with basic financial literacy, market validation of some sort, right? They may not have done all the research, but they validated that the market needs this, and they could do that pretty loosely. Competitive analysis, very important. Again, they may have done a rough draft, but they know who their competitors are, and they know them very closely. They know a lot about the team behind their competitors. They know a little bit of a story behind the competitors. There's this thing I call a mentor. It's a mentor exercise that we run our startups through. It's an industry mentor, so to speak, and I have them look at different companies. They don't need to speak to them, but I have them look at different companies, and I have them look at the team. I have them look at their marketing strategy, their growth strategy, what went well, what didn't go well, and it could even be a potential competitor. But I want them to adopt certain things from that study and reject certain things. And that's very, very helpful when you're looking at the competitive landscape and the industry landscape when you're coming in. But a rough competitive analysis is good. It's very important for a founder to have. Customer journey understanding. And again, that they're going to learn a lot of this in the accelerator program, but having a basic understanding of who their customer is and the incentive for their customer to adopt their product. And then last, executive summary, right? So executive summaries will change. I always call them fluid documents, but they should have an executive summary put together. Now, incubators will do a lot of this. And so I look at incubators as pre-accelerators. After they go through an incubator, they're ready to come into accelerator. So if you're an accelerator, though, your goal is to accelerate them to that next stage of either launch, generating revenue, or getting investment. And so this is why we call it accelerator. I'm sure you all know that. And then the pre-accelerator program, again, as I've mentioned earlier, these are extremely valuable. They really address a lot of these early on problems that startups will run into the accelerator, which really hangs up the accelerator's success and progress. And I'm sure you've been part of accelerators or some of your cohorts where you're rushing certain startups because they're so way behind, right? So a pre-accelerated program will address some of these things. Plus, it also gets them mentally into the mindset on what to expect going in through an accelerator program. And the purpose, again, prepare startups before entering a cohort. The core elements, mission, vision, and core values. These aren't light. These are in-depth. From my perspective, I do deep dives at each one of these, the mission, the vision, and core values, because two things. One, we help them utilize that as the foundation for all their strategic decisions. And so you have to do a much bigger, deeper dive, and it helps them align with the right partners. It helps them stand apart from their competitors. It helps them bring on the right team members and the right employees, right? And it also helps them draw in and provide customer loyalty. And so those three, mission, vision, and core values, are extremely important. And a pre-accelerator can at least get them 3/4 of the way there. Product overview, that needs to be very clear. Early adoption identification. Yeah, we know who our early adopters will potentially be. In fact, I've reached out to one. Customer journey mapping, that's very, very helpful. It gives them some idea on what that journey is going to be from awareness to customer loyalty. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the competitor analysis and the feasibility study. The feasibility study will be very, very helpful for them as well when it comes to building, if they have to do some more development. Pre-accelerators create stronger cohorts and better investment outcomes. And this appears to be very, very true. Again, we run our own pre-accelerators because it's self-paced. We don't need to get involved. They got everything they need. They got all the documentation. They got videos, so on and so forth. And so it really helps them learn and fix a lot of the gaps. And then they can come into an accelerator well prepared. So if you're an accelerator, what should you do next? Implement structured founder evaluation. And that could be starting off with a questionnaire that is strategic intent, right? yeah, it's going to help them think through things, but also help you evaluate a lot better. Pre-qualification screening, as I mentioned, the questionnaire helps with that. Obviously, interviews, evidence-based decision frameworks. And this is good when you have a framework together on how you're going to base your decisions if this is going to be a good fit for your program. And this is why I will do a range of startups coming in. I would do between 8 to 15. Last year we did 5 just because it was our first one for QBio. It was our pilot program, and QBio used Headway's programming. But this was the first time as a company we ever did an accelerator program. So it was important that we thought through things. But now we have a much better understanding and much better framework put together for the second one. So I'm going to do 8 to 15 startups. I know Jessica's going to be a part of that, so she's probably going one. Anyway, and then, pre-accelerator preparation, have a pre-accelerator program of some sort so that you can have startups that don't make it go through your pre-accelerator program. Potentially the next cohort, they will be much more prepared. The goal is simple: recruit founders ready to build companies, not just pitch ideas. And this is no slight against the founders, because every founder is going to be at the early stage. They have to go through the journey, right? No startup is born ready. And that is the end of our presentation. And Jessica, I guess we'll take any questions if anyone has any.
Yes, thank you, Wes. Please use the chat to ask any questions you may have. I know we have a couple that I could share as well, but feel free to drop your questions in the chat. There's a Q&A section that is open. We will be sending just as an FYI, we developed a founder questionnaire that does cover a lot of these different sections that we mentioned, such as customer, defining what customer validation is for some of their customers. So you'll have access to that questionnaire after this meeting, along with this presentation. But Wes, you had mentioned that the founders that are coming in, they should have basic financial literacy. That's pretty broad. Can you define what that looks like a little bit more?
Yeah, so the financial literacy, let me just start it from the basic. Let me just say they need to have at least this. They need to have an understanding of, a better term would be a budget, right? What access to funds do they have now? And what will they need at a certain milestone? The reason why I bring that up is most, if not many, they run out of funding going through the program. And what happens is they get distracted because they haven't figured out how much money is needed as they're going through this from point A to point B. So give you an example. They are in your program for 3-4 months, and their next major milestone is a year from now. And if they don't have not just a budget, but a strategy behind where they're going to be financially, what is needed, they run into major problems. Our cohort last year started out with 6, and during the first 2.5 months, one of the founders had not thought through this, and he was trying to stay within the cohort, but was running around trying to make money at the same time and raise money. And eventually, they lost everything: their email, their website. They couldn't afford even the phone service. And it was a tough place for them to be, because obviously we had to pull them out of the cohort. but it was hard on him, and I hate to see a founder go through that. Sometimes they bring on um, people and take on expenses that are unnecessary. One of the applicants for this cohort already has a space um, and is paying a pretty penny for the space. And unfortunately for them, they also have to totally change their business model. I mean, they're not even ready to launch. They're not going to go far, and so that's going to put them in financial debt. So, what maybe a better term, and financial literacy, we use it as a term. I'm on top of my finances, and I know where I need to spend money, and I know when I'm going to run out of money, and I know what I need to do next from milestone to milestone.
Good. Okay, thank you, Wes. We do have a question that came in. How many stages are in your application process? Do they fill out an application first and then respond to further questions before an interview?
Yeah, so what we have them do is they fill an application out, which is like a basic questionnaire, which gives us some insight. And then we have what we call it's kind of like um, it's a pre-questionnaire, which gives us a little bit more insight, a pre-accelerator questionnaire, which gives us more insight on the stability and the makeup, right, of their company from their perspective. And then we have another one. You guys may think this is a lot, but we gotta we gotta do this. We have another one that analyzes their business model and their pitch deck. But it really analyzes their business model. And this is something I've done countless times. And so I automated it. And it's really good because it helps them look at their business model and it shows all the gaps. It shows examples. It shows where they need to firm up things. Um, not only for themselves, for their investor focus if they are. And so everyone that has gone through that has typically taken a month or two off and come back to me with a totally different perspective on their deck, but also their business model. So that's the third step. And sometimes we skip the second step, which is the kind of like another questionnaire. We have them do the application, and sometimes we have them do the business pitch deck analyzer, and then they have an interview with us. But
And I'd like to,
before
go on, Wes.
have one other person look at it and qualify it before it gets to me. Because when it gets to me, there's a huge probability I'm going to do an interview, and I want to make sure they're ready.
And what we've done too with, just to add to that interview, so Wesley does one interview and then a mentor within the industry has also done the interview as well, so that they could really understand the startup's perspective from that industry, the mentor's coming from too. So that's something we've done. And then the business analyzer, we'll send that some information on that as well, because you'll have access to it if you are a guest in this webinar. Question for you, Wes. Thank you, Grace, for that question. So since you have since you have this questionnaire, should we be worried about startups using AI to optimize their pre-qualification answers?
That's a good question. I don't necessarily. I don't because it will show up in the interview, and so it'll show up in the pitch deck the business analyzer, which I use their pitch deck. It'll show up there, and normally once they see it themselves, they don't even contact me. They go on and start fixing it right away. But if they don't fix things and they come in front of me, I mean, after 2-3 questions, we know this is not a fit.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question for you, Q&A is open for anyone. Please feel free to drop this in. These are some questions that we've received in the past. Now, in the founder questionnaire that you'll be sending out, there is a customer validation section. And it says in there, have you spoken to potential customers? What did you learn? And what type of, so when we're looking at startups in the life sciences and biotech industry, what type of answer are you looking for since some of these companies are still sometimes going through FDA approvals or they're in research stage? What are you looking for in terms of the number of customers that they've spoken to?
Yeah, that's a little bit difficult. So the medtech and biotech companies or startups, typically they need to talk to the physicians, the doctors, the nurses, right, that are in front of the patients, because they're going to be your bridge to a patient. That is your first step. And reason being, and yeah, your patient may be the end person, but you won't get to that patient unless you're a holistic uh, medication of some sort or device that is going to show up at Walgreens. And then investors are really, really scared doing that because that's a B2C model. And so you're looking at a B2B, and your doctors and your hospitals and clinics are the ones that are going to typically give exposure to their patients, which are your end customers. So speaking to doctors and anyone in the healthcare, not anyone, but those that have patient facing, are the ones that you need to reach out to and talk to. And that's very, very important. It is. And it's tough. I'm not going to say it's hard, but it's tough, but it can be done. And then there's other research you can do. Fortunately, in the medical health space, there are publications that are out there that speak on specific illnesses or diseases or solutions that are out there, and the need for a new company to bring this to market or whatever. So you do have publications out there that will kind of validate somewhat of what you're trying to do, but then you do need to speak to, as we call them, the clinicians at some point.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Wes. Well, those are all the questions. We have one more. What are some signs that they have been part of a good pre-accelerator or have done good validation before meeting you?
What are the signs? Ooh, that's really good. Wow. So I'm thinking of one that I just had recently. Um, they're very well prepared to talk about the pain point, how they're solving the pain point, um, and why they matter. And then they're very receptive to feedback and discussion. Uh, so several have started totally focusing on the product. That tells me they haven't done a lot of their due diligence and they're probably not ready. And so we had, uh, and I'm probably the least patient one in our last interview. We had 3 yesterday, but one of the other gentlemen who's in the life science with me, he asks on specific questions. And unfortunately, he had to keep interrupting the applicant because the applicant kept going back to the product and talking about all the features it has. And he had to say, time out, time out. I know you have a great product, but I need to hear about the people behind the product and more so the pain point you're addressing with the patients, because that's extremely important. And so when an applicant, we're having an interview and they focus on all the business related things and the patient, the pain point, which I call all business related, and they're not focusing on answering every question with a product feature, then I know they're very close to being ready or perfect for the accelerator program.
Great question, Grace. Thank you. And she's asking because she works for in the pre-accelerator stage and wanted to make sure she was on track. So perfect.
Yeah, that's really good. That to be honest, the pre-acceleration stage is more important than the acceleration stage. Because if you get them mentally, emotionally ready and they fix not all the gaps, but they fix some of the major, they understand, they acknowledge, here are 5 things I really need to address. But I'm still addressing the pain point, but I acknowledge that I have major gaps and I want to jump into the accelerator to address those gaps, then that's a great place for them, right? So we go back and forth and go, these guys are on track. And we know we're going to help them in the accelerator. So we're not looking for perfect startups. We know they got a lot of gaps, so we're going to help them. But man, if they can't acknowledge that those are gaps, they're doomed in coming into an accelerator program. Because then, as you halfway through the accelerator program, they finally realize, oh, these are the gaps. But then they're trying to play catch up. And a pre-accelerator program or can help them way before they come in. It's like taking a 16-year-old that just got their driver's license and putting them in a race car and say, go. And you know what's going to happen.
They ought to have good insurance, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Good. Well, we have 5 minutes left, so if you'll just let's wrap up with the last slide. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to throw it in the chat or email us. Wes, can you share our emails here? The next slide.
I can. I'm trying to find it. So give me a second here.
Yeah.
But Zoom has changed so many things in this. So okay, I think I got it. I hope I did. There we go. Okay. You see,
So we love talking to people. I love talking to people. Wes does too. So there are different ways to connect with us. You could reach out to Wes or myself, book a partnership call, or just explore and learn how we could align. We do custom programs uh, based off of what your accelerator already offers. We do have a platform that also could manage your cohort. And what else? Wes, anything else you want to add?
no, follow our LinkedIn, which would be good, and let them know. Well, everyone should know that I'm always open to questions here and there. So you can always message me on LinkedIn. But do follow our LinkedIn page. Um, yeah, I'm here to help. And so any thoughts, questions, feel free to just reach out and I will get back to you. No obligation there.
Well, thank you. Everyone have a lovely day.